Welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is a big one. This is a big one for me. This is episode 100. This is our 100th podcast. Lots of milestones. We just hit 100K subscribers about a week ago on YouTube. And now we're dropping our 100th podcast. And I'm super excited. So this podcast is going to be a podcast about my podcast. I want to be talking about, just how amazing it's been. Our first podcast dropped on August 2nd. August 2nd? Yeah. August 2nd, 2018. And it was over 5 years ago. And it was a podcast with my mom who, if you haven't checked it out, it's still to this day, I think the most special podcast I've ever recorded and probably ever will record. She's got just an incredible story. She had a tough life. She raised two boys on her own, and she did it all by herself. And she's just got an amazing story. One that I am sure will bring you to tears, put a smile on your face, inspire you, all that stuff. That's what kicked this whole thing off. And then from there, we just, in the beginning, we were just doing like interview-based podcasts, and they were hard to secure. I'd send out a bunch of messages or just kind of lean on my community and folks that I knew, and every few weeks we'd drop a podcast. Sometimes it was like once a month we were dropping a podcast, just whenever we could align a guest and we could get our schedules coordinated and connect and record and all that sort of stuff. So there's lots of moving parts. And then as the podcast kind of evolved and we started kind of getting a steady stream of guests and recording the podcast, the pandemic hit, and then that threw a monkey wrench into our operation. But it ended up, we ended up making some lemonade, as they say, out of the lemons we were served. And I actually started reaching out to a bunch of folks. All of us were home, especially for the first couple of months of the pandemic. And I just started just sending out tons and tons of direct messages to folks that I found inspiring or interesting. And, during that stretch, those couple of years, I recorded some of my best, most amazing podcasts. I had some super notable guests who just had amazing stories. I had Dr. Ian Smith on a couple of times, Mr. Cartoon, who's a famous artist / tattoo artist in the LA area. He had a Netflix documentary, which was amazing. And I reached out to him after watching it. I was so inspired, and he hit me back up, and we put a podcast together. I had Oteil Burbridge, who's a bass player, amazingly talented musician. He's the bass player for Dead & Company. I've always been a huge fan of the Grateful Dead and their music, so that was a very, very special one. Just a bunch of amazing people. Devin Rodriguez, amazing artist. I hit him up. He was getting huge and viral on TikTok at the time. This was a couple of years ago, and now he's he's tremendously popular and revered, well-known artist in the New York City area. A lot of really, really special podcasts. And what I loved about those earlier podcasts, so that was basically episodes 1 to 59. I found these folks so personally inspiring, and I just loved sharing their story and getting to know them better and getting to, share those folks' stories with all of you out there. And they were a lot of fun. But as we were coming out of the pandemic and my content model was kind of changing a little bit, we decided to do more podcasts like this. So the next 40, this is be the 41st of those types of podcasts, are more just direct to camera stuff where we talk about something, whether it be a medical issue, kind of an Ask Dr. Mudgil type, longer format response to a question someone may have asked me on Reddit or TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. Or we talk about just issues in healthcare or various mindset motivational topics, which, obviously, as you know, I love talking about. That's something that Martha, I'm sure you probably listened to this, but one of my subscribers on YouTube coined the term, come for the pop, stay for the inspiration. And, really what I love doing is talking about mindset, motivational stuff, using personal examples from my own life, things that I've learned, now that I'm, getting all these gray hairs. I just shaved, but I had a lot of gray hair in my scruff before I shaved earlier today. Really the hope, my goal with those types of podcasts is to basically talk to the 8 or 9-year-old me. That's the stuff that I was going through at that age. I wish someone were telling me, hey, it's going to be all right. These are the things that you could do to, get yourself out of whatever rut you may be into, or, this is how you can start learning to believe in yourself and your talents and your potential and abilities. And, that's really what I hope folks are taking away from essentially the bulk of my platform. I really want it to be a platform that inspires, that motivates, that empowers. I'm all about, building folks up, not breaking them down. I always say we level up together. And, really that's what I hope to inspire anyone listening to do. My success is your success is my success. I just would love for all of us to level up together, inspire each other, motivate each other, empower each other. Really, this podcast is a podcast of gratitude. Without you out there watching the little mini clips that we make from this podcast, or listening to the podcast as a whole, whether you listen to it like on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts, or you watch it on YouTube or Facebook. I'm so grateful for you consuming my content, commenting on my content, inspiring more content. Really, this community that we created through just, posts in and of themselves, whether it be on Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, or this podcast format, which is my longest form content that we put out there. It's really about this community that we're creating. I'm so proud of this community we're creating. It really is like I said, on YouTube, we're 100K strong. TikTok, we have 3 million folks. Instagram, we have about 350,000. And we're growing. And, it's really just so amazing for me to see this community blossom and develop. So, we're going to throw a few clips, intermixed with what I'm talking about here in this podcast, some throwbacks and some highlights and that sort of stuff. So I hope you enjoy this recap of the Dr. Mudgil podcast. I'm proud to have now officially have dropped my 100th episode, and really all thanks go to all of you out there that are either watching or listening. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend, and are just ready to crush the week ahead. Let's get it.
But when I was pregnant, he couldn't even call a cab. I had to walk to the hospital, which was like one and a half.
When you were pregnant with me?
Yes.
Like when you were about to deliver, you walked to the hospital?
Walk to the hospital. If the child could have come on the street, and as soon as I reached there at the desk, they brought me a wheelchair and just sat down fast. And as soon as I went up to his son, he was born in 1 minute.
Wow.
He put me in so much problems.
This is my dad.
Yes.
People just weren't knowledgeable to, especially kids,
exactly.
to embrace other cultures. And I was like a weird kid, I was like this brown kid in a white school.
You were different, and they weren't.
Yeah, I mean, to the outside
them.
world, I was weird. I was like,
Right.
like I didn't belong, and that was always a very, looking back now, I was living through it, so I didn't really think about it that much. But I think a lot of that really defined, who I was in a weird way, because I never wanted to be who I was growing up, because I was always the odd man out, especially in those younger years. I always felt like, why can't I be like everybody else?
I think one of the biggest issues is the way that we look at healthcare is the problem. We should look at healthcare as a human right rather than looking at it as a privilege. And when you look at it as a right that everyone should have good quality healthcare because it is humane, it is what is going to help people live a more quality of life and live longer. Every human being should have a chance to live as long as possible and to live as well as possible, well meaning health well as possible. That we all should agree that is the case.
I feel like a deep purpose of helping people take a break from the brokenness of the world. And, it exists, and we have plenty of things to remind us that it exists, but it's like more and more, I think we need more reminders that there's hope and joy and there's lightheartedness, and, it's just a place to I would love to be like a fresh breath of air, where people can just escape a little bit.
I was just happy to be acting, so when I went on auditions, I was like, oh, here's an opportunity, because I went from like being super shy to, oh, now I get to perform and I get to, I get to act, and here's an opportunity for me to act. And so I didn't understand that like it was really competitive or really hard. I was just showing up doing, my thing. And then I'd leave feeling like I had this high because I got to act.
This insurance company just doesn't want to pay for it because it makes them poorer. It affects their profit margin in a negative way. That's how this all works. When your doctor says you need a CT scan or an MRI, the insurance company's instinct will always be initially to deny it, right?
You need to have, I believe, my opinion, clarity. So clarity is just as important as all that hard work, because you can put all that hard work into some bullshit and get that, right? So what I mean by clarity is, I'll use myself as an example. I'm always starting something new. Okay. When I just wanted to be an artist. I didn't know what it was going to be, a graffiti artist or a tattoo artist. I just wanted to be an artist, right? So I made that decision. I'm clear on that. I'm clear on that I'm an artist by trade,
Sure, and
right?
anyone who wants to compete, I'm 100% an advocate for it, because I think the mindset you create, the confidence, it is something that you can't replace. And I know that's something that you even found through your own health journey, is just like the mindset and the consistency and how that shows up in other areas of your life.
It's hard for people to let go of control. And those are the people that will design themselves a bad tattoo. And the artists who will let them do it are failing them in that way. And so I don't let people art direct a bad tattoo. I'll say, no, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I have some people DM me like, yo, you do this shit for clout, you do it for clout. I'm like, yo, I've been doing this before social media. Like, I love it. Like my friend, I remember when my best friend Craig, he wanted me to get on Instagram. I think it was junior year of high school. He was like, yo, get on Instagram. And at the time, like Instagram, it was the beginning of junior year. At the time, Instagram felt to me, it was very new. So Instagram felt like it was always a bunch of girls like posting like butterflies or selfies or like little cute flowers and stuff. So I didn't take it serious. I was very into like my art. Like I was like a purist. Like I'm just drawing. And I'm like, nah, I'm not posting that. That's for girls posting like butterflies and stuff. Like I'm not putting my art on that. And he's like, bro, just join it. Anyway, so the other day he's like, yo, remember when you told me that Instagram was just posting like butterflies and stuff? Look at you now. I was like, I know, right?
The way you achieve that goal is through work. And work is kind of like, that's where, the work is where the work comes into play. And that's where you have to grind, put the pedal, just hustle. You got to hustle and grind and get those daily wins, do whatever you have to do to achieve whatever your goal may be, not your dream, whatever your goal may be.